Hailing from the great dark elf city of Hag Graef is Malus Darkblade on a distant expedition to establish a colony to send slaves back to the homeland. When first introduced, Malus Darkblade was best characterized as a weak lord with mechanics that worked against him just as much as they did for him. However, he has since been buffed and now sits among one of the strongest dark elf lords. Now it's time to see if this, along with having a demon in his back pocket, is enough for Malus Darkblade to possess the world. Welcome to Elven Plot Armor, and this is the faction mastery and rating for Hag Graef. To rate the faction, we'll be assessing their advanced strategies across 5 separate criteria, culminating in a total overall. This guide is made in tandem with community feedback to provide a balanced perspective. Starting with strategy, which measures the faction's ability and power on the campaign map. And you might be wondering why Malus Darkblade is playing Christopher Columbus on the opposite end of the map. Well, he's acquiring slaves of course, but you see Malus himself isn't exactly free. He's required to drink magical elixirs crafted by Malekith himself to keep the cursed affliction he has in check. You see, Malus managed to free a demon of Slaanesh named Tz'arkan, Drinker of Worlds, and in return for not having his soul taken, Malus agreed to do some fetch quests for him. Along the way, Malus's cunning mind and Tz'arkan's unearthly strength proved a formidable pairing. By the end, demon and elf would embrace in victory before a heartfelt goodbye. I'm just kidding, of course the demon screwed him over. Even after a series of bloody mayhem, including Malus accidentally killing his own father, Tz'arkan took Malus's soul as a souvenir, forever bonding the two together. This relationship shapes Malus Darkblade's campaign through his possession mechanic, along with Tz'arkan's endless quips trying to psych you out like the world's most annoying backseat driver.
Unleash me. It will be good for us. How much more must I endure?
Tz'arkan to be freed to deal with the mess you get yourself in. Do not take these unless you are absolutely sure you can deal with the consequences. The reason you would want these is because they tend to be followers and not use up an item slot. They typically offer great buffs to magic, but the two best followers are Balneth and Engvin, which globally boost black art growth and slave revenue. However, what you can't avoid is the possession mechanic itself and how it shapes Malus and his entire realm. At the top of the screen you'll see the possession mechanic, which goes to a maximum of 10, indicating full possession. At this point he can activate Tz'arkan in battle, allowing his ungodly abilities. However, at this point your entire kingdom will lose faith in you. You will have a negative 60% casualty replenishment, as well as a chance to lose loyalty on every turn to represent people just leaving because they're not comfortable having a demon in charge. While being able to summon Tz'arkan allows Malus to absolutely devastate his battles, putting some death hags in your armies will help curtail some of this replenishment restriction. There will usually come a time where the loyalty of your generals and just really needing to replenish your forces will force you to drink the potions. Drinking one will take you to a neutral 0, drinking a second potion on the same turn will take you to negative 10. This represents full control, and on the very first turn you have it, it will give a plus 100 growth bonus and plus 10 public order to every single province. On top of this, plus 2 loyalty will help win back some favour with those treacherous generals, but Malus's newfound sanity gets old very quickly, and he will gain plus 2 to possession every single turn, which can be reduced to plus 1 per turn if you have him garrisoned, but you're playing Dark Elf, so this is very unlikely to happen. Don't bother drinking potions until you hit 10 again, because when you do, you can once again unlock Tz'arkan, which will come with all the aforementioned debuffs, but do your damage, be as destructive as you can for as long as you can, and then drink the 2 potions, allowing you a chance to regroup and recalm your population. Also, while at negative 10 and full possession, Malus can also use his Rite of the Warmaster, and it's pretty strong, allowing him to summon a full Doom stack containing units ranging from monstrous cavalry all the way up to black dragons and hydras. Be sure you can afford said Doom stack before you use it, because it's quite the toe on your treasury. However, this will allow you to expand very quickly and can also elevate your balance of power, making confederations easier. Rather than having to wait 10 turns to get full possession back, Malus Darkblade has the ability to trigger full possession once every 40 turns. This is a great tool to have up your sleeve so one-man army Malus can come to the rescue. When the time comes, drink 2 potions at once to make use of the civil administration buffs. Because other than a 30% buff to mine revenue, that's pretty much where his civil administration buffs end. Malus is tooled much better for his expedition style of play rather than being an all-conquering administrator. His other unique right, Gift to the Witch King, allows you to just summon a hero that's the same level as the number of settlements that Malekith controls. This hero will spawn right beside Malus Darkblade, which basically means on the front line and able to get effect straight away. While Death Hags are a tempting choice because they can elevate your very lackluster replenishment, Masters are typically more awkward to increase the unit cap of, and they have great utility both on and off the battlefield. Now, when viewing the legendary lord themselves and what they contribute to the strategy score, Malus Darkblade is a great adventurer, but he's not a very good administrator. He prefers the mobility of Cold One units, halving their upkeep, but these are unfortunately some of the worst units in the entire Dark Elf roster, thanks to their slow speed, very large size, and the fact they will rampage and be very difficult to get out of dicey situations. If you really like Cold One riders and want to bring one or two in an army, Malus Darkblade is the one guy that can make them viable. He has a number of skills which increase these, but seriously, don't worry about it. You want to pump all your points into Malus, or more precisely, Malus and Tz'arkan. When leveling up Malus, make your way towards Lightning Strike, and from here you can decide to go for 3 points in Quartermaster and get Feared and Renowned, which gives you some valuable campaign movement and an overall 23% decrease to upkeep. This frees up more funds for secondary armies, which will help your expansion, and defeat inland revolts where you won't have Black Ark support. For most other Dark Elf lords around this time, you'd want to go for Bowmaster, but Malus Darkblade has a much better option, and that is just to keep on powering up Malus Darkblade and Tz'arkan. The Waking, which buffs Malus, and the Slumber, which buffs Tz'arkan. Tz'arkan's area of effect abilities increases survivability as well as deal massive damage. The Supernatural Tissue perk will give him an extra 30% casualty replenishment, which helps offset the 60% penalty he will gain from having full possession. Get this and Avatar of Terror to get 10% extra ward save and decrease their local leadership. Cold-Hearted is a must, giving 5% more campaign replenishment, decreasing attrition, which can be a factor in these hostile lands. Draco Tyrant helps with the loyalty issues and the public order that will come as a result, and an extra 10% reduction to your upkeep. From here, the buffs to Malus himself are definitely worth getting. Pain tolerance and laying in wait can absolutely be used to spring devastating ambushes and make Malus last for longer, dealing more damage before you have to pull the trigger on his transformation. Down the red tree, it can be worth getting Sheath Master to increase the potency of your archers, and if you really want, you can buff your spear units or Cold One units to work your way towards Ravager rewards, ultimately increasing your Shade's range. But it can be really tempting to just double down on Malus, increasing his melee defense, armor, and survivability, because one-man army Tz'arkan is a reality. Now, as for his mount Spite, Spite is a bit of a mixed bag. The long and short of it is this: Malus in his own form is a great duelist. You want him on Spite to be able to hunt and run down enemy characters, slaying them on the battlefield. However, once he transforms into Tz'arkan, he is a one-man army dealing area of effect damage, and you want a smaller target where enemy units can cluster around before using these big area of effect attacks. He's less susceptible to magic, missiles, and anything else, so he will last for longer and is a much better wrecking ball as a result. So if you're good at swapping mounts, unpossessed, keep him on Spite. When he's possessed, get him on foot and march in. In true edgelord fashion, Malus Darkblade is a double-edged sword, but with careful management can be used to devastating effect, and he gets 4.5 stars for strategy. Just a quick reminder guys, if you are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing, it really helps out. Ask any question in the comments, I answer everything, and if you'd like to talk strategy, feel free to join the Discord. Cheers. Next we have Geography, which measures the faction's surroundings and their ability to traverse them. And Malus Darkblade is a little bit difficult to judge in this area because he starts with his capital in Hag Graef, but he himself is in the Dragon Isles conducting his expedition. After taking your first settlement, you'll be given the option of trading Hag Graef for 20,000 gold or keeping the settlement without the bonus. If you have grand plans of trying to run both kingdoms at once, it is going to be very difficult for you. Even with the power of Dark Elf Black Arcs, the majority of your threats will be in the north where you don't have a Black Arc. It is highly advisable to take the money and forego this altogether. Now on my channel I do have a guide of how to get a 2-turn Confederation with Malekith, but again this is a dicey start that requires making a lot of big enemies early on. Also, this is such a similar campaign to Malekith, you might be asking why not just play Malekith and confederate Malus Darkblade, and spoiler alert, when you confederate Malus Darkblade you don't need to worry about possession and can transform into Tz'arkan at any time. So probably while less expensive expansive, the more potent campaign is to take the money and expand and build yourself up in the Dragon Isles. If you're going for campaign victory, all of your objectives are down here near the Dragon Isles, so by packing up and going back to Nagaron, you're basically resigning your ability to ever win. The 20,000 gold can be used to rapidly grow this area, as well as use the Rite of the Warmaster and summon a Doom stack at your capital that'll be moved to the south at any given time. Now, once you've completed your 10th province, Malekith will give you unlimited potions for free, allowing you to bring your possession down to nothing and maximize the civil administration buffs. Now, you think this would mean that you want to expand quickly to try and achieve this, but this is a trap. It will actually take you longer than you think to acquire 10 full provinces. Much of the territory is undesirable, and it's something that's easy to get once you're well established. Spend your opening turns acquiring the Dragon Isles and fortify these settlements. From here, you can choose to expand either north or south. The advantage of going north is because, well, your objectives are up here, and you can also get the jump on Snikch. By attacking the goblins or being hostile to them, you can even make Snikch an ally. However, be careful because Grimgor and the Greenskins is the biggest threat from up here. Just be careful on who you get too close with, or you can leave them to fight each other. My preference is to try and get the jump on Snikch and get him while he's weak. If you're lucky, you can go even to the mid game without even discovering the southern factions like the Last Defenders or Clan Moors. However, Snikch and the Greenskins you will run into, and they can be hostile, so best to get established. At this point, it's time to expand south, and you could actually start expanding this direction whilst keeping peaceful with Snikch. Either is a great option, and quite similarly you will have the Last Defender Lizardman as well as Queek Headtaker, and you can basically set them off against each other and then go sweep in and then take out the winner. Regardless, you'll want the port provinces for obvious reasons with Black Ark support, and once you get rolling, you should have no issues. Just remember that in the jungles, as well as up towards Snikch, use ambush stance for great effect. Protect your armies, scout, and you should be okay. If you're looking to do a really aggressive expansion, you can summon Rite of the Warmaster and get your Doom stack from your capital and send it in another direction to push 2 spearheads at once, drink 2 potions, and then use the civil buffs to calm your territories. Even still, make sure you keep the pace at something manageable, and remember, get your provinces up to tier 3, build walls on them, and always get sacrificed to Mathland to build up your collection of Black Arks to increase your naval support, even when you're going inland. Malus Darkblade's start is certainly complicated, but it's not weak, has naval support, and a good lord with the right tools to push along, and they land 4 stars in geography. Next we have Diplomacy, which is the faction's ability to control their engagements. And Malus Darkblade starts off with a military alliance with Nagaron, and you would think a logical step is to just break this because you don't want to be pulled into multiple wars, but here's the thing, your balance of power is combined with Malekith, meaning you are that much more intimidating and a less desirable target to declare war on. Yes, the more threats you have, the weaker you look, and you will be a more appealing target, but it doesn't really matter. Being tight with Malekith will make you tight with the other lords, and you will eventually get your confederations. You probably won't get Crone, but you can quite easily get Rakarth. If you want to send an agent out, you can discover and confederate Lockyer, and Marathi is just a matter of time, but Malus Darkblade is one lord where you don't really need to focus too much on confederations with. If you just focus on the southern lands, you will get your 10 settlements and finish your campaign even before turn 100 if you're doing great. If you try to play Malus as Diet Malekith, you're going to have a complicated time. If you accept him as an adventuring expedition, you will have a much easier time focusing on the Dragon Isles with a nice $20,000 head start. In the Dragon Isles, one thing I absolutely do recommend is do not sign any defensive or military alliances with any Skaven or Orc factions because they will rope you into conflicts which you don't really want to get into. Now listen, being friendly is one thing. I would actually even recommend sending some gifts to the Greenskins to buy you some time to deal with anything down south, but the thing about the southern factions is do not go below Dragonfang Mount. I repeat, going below here vastly increases the chance you'll discover these factions. A faction that's discovered you is a faction that can declare war on you. I strongly recommend getting rid of Snikch, paying off the Greenskins to get in their good books, and then expanding south. You might have the opportunity to take out the Greenskins or even run into the Dwarves, but make sure you only bite off more than you can chew, and try to only be expanding in the north or the south at any given point in time, at least until you get your treasury underway. You are going to have to venture away from the coastline where your Black Arks can support you, so make sure you use measured diplomacy, limit your threats, even gift where you need to, and most of all, divide and conquer. Let the Lizardmen and Skaven in the south destroy each other, sweep in while they're weak, and capture their settlements. Take Libera's territories, as well as the Crater of the Walking Dead. Even though they're undesirable territory, they are strategically important. This will connect you to the seaports of the Kingdoms of the Beast, and then go into the Southlands to wipe out the Lizardmen. I absolutely recommend expanding further to the east, but make sure your border does not extend past the southern World Edge Mountains. Taking Thoric Ironbrow's capital will give you a gold mine, a building Hag Graef get 30% more income from. Both this and Carnal Valley have suitable climates, making this a perfect border for your kingdom. Yes, the Tomb Kings are good targets, but they're also very poor. Their deserts are horrible for your Dark Elves to live in, so just simply pay them off. They're very poor, gifts cost you nothing, just pay them off, and this is a permanent border that will not budge. Once you've reached this point, you can dedicate all of your military to the north to finally wipe out the Greenskins and the Dowie. Now, I don't recommend taking the Broken Teeth settlements of Nagashir and the Desolation of Nagash because they are just so difficult to get to. They're corrupt, likely to rebel, and they require constant babysitting. The only reason why I would take these is if you're at 9 complete provinces, this can roll you over to your 10th complete province. If you do as I recommend and expand all the way to the edge of Carmel Valley, you won't even need to expand past the Plain of Bones to get your 10th complete province. At this point, you've reached unlimited potions and have become one of the most expansive powers in the entire game. Once you maintain this hold, this is when I would start focusing on confederating into the other lords. Without any disruptions or concerns of your military bleeding you dry, you'll have a wealth of Black Arcs which you can disband and reposition up there, and remember the stack of monsters you can summon with Rite of the Warmaster will drastically increase your balance of power, helping you get confederations even easier. Malus Darkblade doesn't have a lot of friends, and it has even less useful friends. However, he does have options and can manipulate, divide and conquer, and get away with 3 3/4 stars in diplomacy. Next we have military, which is the faction strength and control of their military engagements. And the Dark Elves do fairly good, weak in close combat, but have access to early armor-piercing crossbow bolts. As standard, use 2 to 4 Dread Spears to shield your Dark Shards with some hero support, and ultimately upgrade them to Shades. Rite of the Warmaster will give you several beasts. Be sure to keep one in each of your armies because this will give you Siege Attacker, mitigating the need for a Bolt Thrower. Now, we can't talk about military without talking about Tz'arkan on the battlefield. Now, one thing is, he is not out of the box going to be the one-man wrecking ball you expect. You need to invest the points in him, particularly in the unique Tz'arkan abilities. And Tz'arkan will start with full health because the moment that you transform, Tz'arkan will enter the battlefield with a new full pool of health. Additionally, all of his abilities come recharged, so yes, when you start as Malus Darkblade, dive in there, do as much damage as you can, use all of his abilities, and just make sure before he routes, trigger Tz'arkan. Even if he's routing, the transformation will continue, but make sure you press it before he runs off the battlefield. Once transformed, you'll be draining health with Reaper of Souls, a very potent area of effect ability which will keep his hit points high. His area of effect explosion attack has a bit more skill than you think. Don't just trigger it. You'll notice that many of Tz'arkan's animations dive into a group. Wait for one of these jumping animations, dive in, and then trigger it. It's got a very short range, but man does it hurt. Pay close attention to this and you'll see much better results when you play as Tz'arkan. Malus Darkblade also boosts Cold One units, but see the Dark Elf tier list to see that these are not a unit to overly invest in. In terms of weapons, Malus Darkblade only has one, and that is the Warpsword of Cain, an excellent weapon which allows him to passively regenerate his hit points. Given that when he's transformed into Tz'arkan, his hit points will deplete until they reach 0. So anything you can get on him, potions, regeneration, anything that keeps that health pool high, is fundamentally crucial to keeping Tz'arkan on the field and dealing damage. Though keep in mind, if Malus is in his regular form and falls in battle, he'll be wounded and unavailable for recruitment for the standard 5 turns. However, if Tz'arkan is summoned and Tz'arkan falls, Malus Darkblade will still be alive on the campaign map with just a very little amount of health. Upgrade your heroes with the standard followers, see the Dark Elf hero guide on how to maximize your economy, and upgrade your shades to be the cornerstone armor piercing answer to the mid to late game. For military, Malus Darkblade only has one trick, but he does it so damn well, and fortunately comes from a relatively flexible faction that he can still land 4.5 stars in military. Finally, we have economy, measuring the faction's wealth and prosperity, and Hag Graef are a Dark Elf faction, which is one of the most prosperous and wealthy economies in the entire game. Whichever way you you play, you will have limited trade opportunities and a lot of military expense. However, the faction has access to water, which means Black Ark cost reductions. Dragonfang Mount has an excellent port, resource buildings, and actually serves as a very good worker province in the early game. You know what, even until the mid game, as a 3-settlement province, it's exceptionally wealthy, and that is a factor of the slave revenue earned. So long as you pick your engagements carefully, your biggest cost of military shouldn't be too bad. Using Malus Darkblade's cunning, you should be able to make measured calls from the diplomacy screen and reduce your spending this way. Not having suitable climate in all areas does hurt Malus's economy somewhat, but focus on the strength, which is his headquarters at the Dragon Isles, and Malus can reduce his reduction rate as well as multipliers thanks to being able to summon additional masters and assassins with his unique rites. Malekith tends to grow quite strong, so it's quite easy to raise heroes of level 10 or above, which is the ideal level for assassins. At full possession, Tz'arkan's power allows Malus to basically win battles single-handed, reducing the cost of his particular army, and when all is said and done, drink a couple of potions and enjoy 100 growth for that turn. Just be very careful and slowly disband your other lords, because revolts themselves can be profitable, but in the wrong place they can devastate a brand new holding and really set you back, so just be careful. Now, the last hint I'll give you is basically how bankruptcy works in this game. Summoning Rite of the Warmaster will cost you 12,000 gold. Now, make sure you spend every cent you have on this turn, because yes, this will likely send your income into the negative, but that's okay. All your armies and garrisons will suffer attrition because people walk away because, well, they're not getting paid. But it doesn't matter if you're -1 gold or -1 million gold, that attrition is exactly the same. Summon and force march this doom stack from your capital to wherever you're trying to spearhead your next attack. Take as much territory and destroy as many armies as you can, being sure to spend every cent you have because you're going to lose it at the end of each turn. Do this for as long as you can, but remember, all of your garrisons are also losing troops. If you have a revolt, the revolt will walk straight in without a garrison to defend it. So this is a great strategy for maybe 5 to 10 turns, but it's not sustainable and it will cost you. Just keep an eye on your garrisons and use that sack revenue to upgrade your provinces. In the early game, this is by far the most effective way of using Rite of the Warmaster. Just be careful and know when to call it quits. Between the tried and true methods of Dark Elf enslavement and combat revenue, Hag Graef are never short on money and managed to land 4.5 stars in economy. When Hag Graef were first released, they were almost obnoxiously difficult, with double-edged mechanics that really harmed the player without ever really giving much back. CA have done an excellent job with reinvigorating this campaign, capturing the duality and struggle within that Malus must face. Ungodly battlefield power comes at the cost of your people's trust. However, through careful scheming and cunning, you can lever the strengths of both unpossessed and fully possessed states to maximize your opportunity. While seriously unconventional and requiring a lot more housekeeping, Hag Graef are a very powerful faction. Personally, Malus Darkblade is my favorite Dark Elf Lord in the game, and I'm proud to say he still stands strong at 84% overall. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. Everything's organized into playlists for your convenience, and ask anything in the comments. I answer everything. This has been Elven Plot Armor, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.